Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Link Magazine. I am so thrilled to have Amadeus here, King Amadeus here with us.
Hey,
Hey, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Black Link Magazine.
thank you for having me. I'm honored. So grateful and humbled, like I said, that you chose me to want to share, my story and my journey. First off, congrats to you and all that you've done and all that you've been doing in your career and with the magazine. You've done great work. And it's only uphill from here. And again, I'm humble and grateful and thankful that you've chosen me to be a part of this interview.
Thank you so much. And you guys, just whoever's listening, he will be our feature cover for the Educator
Hey,
magazine that's dropping. Hey, yes.
let's go.
Yes, let's do it. So we're excited about that. Man, I don't know. I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and we'll talk about all the many wonderful things that you've done in the music industry. So go ahead and tell the world who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name is Amadeus. I am a multi-platinum BadBoy Hitmen producer that's been blessed to produce for over 100 artists, ranging from J-Lo to French Montana to Lil Wayne to Tyga to Jeezy to Keisha Cole to Chris Brown to Trey Songz, Danny Kane, Day 26, Maya, Davies, Young M.A., Justin Bieber, Cameron, Diplomats, Dipset, 50 Cent, G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Foxy Brown. Man, so many artists, but blessed to produce for over 100 artists. Also, Trey Songz, music director and tour drummer, been touring with Trey for the last 14 years. Or so. I have a residency at Drais nightclub in Las Vegas. I've been doing that for 4 years as a resident drummer. And other artists that have a residency there are also Chris Brown and Big Sean and Migos and Fabulous. Who else? Juicy J. They just signed Rick Ross, Wiz Khalifa, Lil Wayne. So even to be amongst those other artists and celebrities as a resident at Drais nightclub is awesome. I am also a music educator. Started the College Music 101 tour with my partner Michael Daniel a few years back, just educating people in the music business and introducing them into the music business. So I've been doing that, and 20 plus years at this thing in music. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I'm grateful to still be present and still be able to do what I love on a day-to-day basis. And once again, grateful to be here with you.
Yeah.
So that's me in a nutshell. That's me. I know that was a lot to consume in one moment, but that's me in a nutshell.
That was a lot. And so I pulled up my phone because I had your media kit. And I was like, I'm going to not try to name all these people because there's so many people to name, but it's just so amazing. And what's so good about that is for the people that's listening, these are all relevant people, names that are very familiar that people know, and that you're currently working still, it's not
right.
Used to be in the business, like currently doing that. So kudos to you for lasting this long.
Thank you so much.
Which is a segue into what I want to talk about. I want to talk about your journey in the music business. And I've been having a lot of these interviews with some people in some pretty high places amongst yourself. And, I'm kind of just trying to get the story behind the scenes, how it works, what was your personal story? So where did it all begin for you?
So Foxy Brown, right? I actually took a meeting with her brother Anton Marchand, who at that time was the director of A&R at Interscope Records. And I went to took my first label meeting up there with him, and I took my music up there, just to kind of date myself. I had my beats on a CD, and I went up there and played it for him. And, everything that I played was real. I'm from the Bronx. Everything was real boom bap, real hard hip hop. And he would say, yo, I really love what you're doing. He said, but it just doesn't work for the artist that I'm currently working on right now. And I think at that time he had like the group City High. I think he was working on like Maya. I think he had like Wyclef Jean up there at the time from the Fugees. And everything that I was making was just hard, just street and just raw. And he's like, yo, I love what you're doing, but again, it doesn't fit what I'm creating and what I'm working on. But I think you'll be a perfect fit for my sister. And I'm like, your sister? And he's like, yeah, my sister. I said, who's your sister? He's like, Foxy Brown. And I'm like, it's not your sister, bro. He's like, yo, that's my sister. And I remember like that moment of being at his desk and looking at his desk. And you know how they have the nameplates on his desk. So his name was Anton Marchand, right? And me being a Foxy Brown fan, like I know her real name. Her real name is Inga Marchand, right? So when I put two to two together, them having the same last names, I was like, yo, this is really her brother. This is crazy. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, she's going to be in the studio tonight. Chung King Studios, which is in the city in New York. Chung King City, you know, in the studio. Go pull up. She's going to be there at 7:00. Play the same beat you played me in the same exact order. He was like, I know she's going to love something. And I did just that. Went down to the studio. You know, walk in the room, Foxy Brown is there, and she's like, what up? I heard you got some heat. And I'm like, so it was, you know, it was an exciting moment of like being in awe as a fan, but then like, yo, this is what I've been putting in the work for so long. This is the moment, the defining moment of finally a real, authentic, famous, world-renowned artist hearing the music that I've been making in my house. You know what I'm saying? In my home little studio setup. And I pressed play. She was real cool and reserved. You know, she didn't show too much emotion. And she was like, all right, cool. You got some heat. You know, you kind of got some heat. She was like, can you leave the CD with me? And I'm like, yeah. Left the CD. I remember walking out of the studio and I was like, yo, that was Foxy Brown, bro. Like, you know, I just had that little moment of like, dude, you was just in there playing your beats with Foxy Brown, bro. Like, we here. You know what I mean? Yeah. So went to the crib, got a phone call the next day, like, yo, you know, she picked a few joints from the CD she loved. She wrote 2 songs. One song is actually going to be featured in the movie and the soundtrack that DMX is doing. You know, rest in peace to the late, great DMX. Cradle to the Grave, movie and soundtrack. So that was how I got into the game. That was my first official placement that was released. So I created produced the theme song, My Cradle to the Grave, My Life, featuring Foxy Brown and After Your Heart. And it was in the movie and on the soundtrack. And this is actually the plaque right here of the album Going Gold, which means that it sold hard copies too. This is before streaming, before iTunes, before all of that. This is when you had to go and actually purchase the CD, the cassette tape, the vinyl in the actual record store. And, you know, that was what you know, that put me on the map as a producer. So big shout out to Foxy Brown. Hopefully we'll see in a versus or something, you know, and give her roses. You know, I heard Lil' Kim, you know, asked for Nicki Minaj, but I think it's a way better fit, you know, for Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim to celebrate one other and a versus. So hopefully we get that, man. So that's how I got into the game. And then after that, you know, other artists followed, and I got to work with Cameron and Little Mo and Mike Jones, and you know, and it just became like a tumbling ball effect, and just, you know, everything just started happening, you know. But it took me quite some time to get to that point, because I don't want the viewers to think like, oh, it just happened. Like it took me years of working and producing and making music and making beats before I even presented it to artists. Like it was years before I let anyone in the professional world listen. Like my friends, my colleagues, my peoples, yes. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure that I was ready, and I was, you know, my music and the quality of it was up to par to even be heard by the likes of a Foxy Brown or someone. And that's kind of like, and I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, Queen, that's kind of like the opposite of where it is today, whereas because it's so accessible, right? Music, the platforms, the opportunities, people are waking up today, starting to produce, starting to songwrite, starting to be an artist, and then tomorrow they release music. It's like, yo, you didn't even give yourself time to develop. You didn't even give yourself time to nurture your craft and your gift before you're like, here's what I do. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the difference between back then when I came in versus, you know, what's going on in today's music world, you know?
Yeah. And I don't want to take anything from them today. Okay, I get it. But back then is when you worked for it. We're like those plaques on your wall, you worked for that because it wasn't as accessible, like you said. And that means you put your blood, sweat, and tears in it. Right. And I'm glad that you mentioned, because I had it written down for you to just share with the world that it didn't happen overnight. That it was like, it takes time to get to where you are. And even to meeting with Foxy Brown's brother, like how long before then were you in the music and nobody even knew who Amadeus was, right?
Right, absolutely.
When you met with her brother, was that the very first time you presented your music to someone of that status and was like, okay, now I think it's time? What connected that conversation?
So my cousin, through marriage, shout out to my cousin Joe Thompson, through marriage via my uncle, he was kind of in the music industry, kind of, sort of, and he was working with Anton at Interscope. And then, my uncle kind of, my nephew's over there making music. He's making beats now. I don't know how serious he is. I don't know how good he is. I'm just kind of letting you know. And he kind of got word of it. And then I let my cousin hear it. And he was just like, yo, bro, this, you really do this. You know what I mean? Like, these joints are fire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started. It wasn't my first time ever letting someone in a professional world or in the music business listen to it. There were some other A&Rs, there were some other artists and managers that did hear it, that got to hear me and hear what I'm doing. So it wasn't really that, but it was just a big moment of me walking into the record label, me seeing the Interscope sign and all of the artists that was signed to the label and their pictures all over the wall, and seeing the plaques all over the wall of those artists that were successful at the label. So it's kind of that moment of oh man, I'm in a real label amongst real people that really do this. If anything is going to happen, it can happen today. You know what I mean? And that was kind of my mentality as I took the meeting.
Gosh, I could just listen to these stories all day long. Okay. So anyway, so you said you grew up in the Bronx.
Yes.
Tell me about life before then. At what point growing up did you know it was music for you? Was you born into a music family? How did you know it was music for you?
It kind of fell into my lap in a way where, and shout out to my mom and dad, they are music lovers. So we had a thing on Saturdays called Clean Up Saturdays where, and I'm sure you can relate, you can't do nothing and go nowhere until the house is clean. Right. And that was a rule, that was a rule that was implemented in our home, and there was nothing you can do to change it. So we did our best to enjoy it. And how they helped us enjoy it is by playing music, So one Saturday, my mom would have the record player, and she would play all of her hits and all of the joints she loved. The next Saturday, my pops had it. So I was always surrounded by music. So they sacrificed, sent us me and my siblings to Catholic school. Mm-hmm. In that Catholic school, the name of the school was St. Augustine School of the Arts. You had to choose a musical instrument to learn. I wanted to learn either the trumpet or the saxophone. Mm-hmm. And for some strange reason, and I know you can relate in regards to your parents, my parents would never let me stay home. I would have to be on my last breath of oxygen, or had swine flu or something like that in order for me to stay home. But for some reason, this day they let me stay home. Yeah. So I enjoyed the moment, right? And then the next day, I went to school to learn that those slots to learn the saxophone and the trumpet were all taken. Wow. So that was definitely a sad moment for me. And the only instruments that had a slot available in it was the violin and percussion. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm from the Bronx, from 169th from Washington Avenue. They call my block the 9, literally. So I was already a target because I had to dress up. Yep. And wear, dress school attire. And I was already mocked and laughed and teased for that. So the last thing I was going to do was add a violin case to that. So I was like, we're going to choose percussion. I didn't even know what that is. Right. But we're going to go with percussion, and walked into the room to learn, that it was everything that had to do with rhythm. And again, never touching an instrument, never having any dreams or aspirations to be a musician. It was something that I had to take because that's what the school offered. So the teacher sat down, played a bunch of different drum patterns, and wanted to go around the room to see who could implement those, patterns. And for some reason, I was able to play every drum pattern that he played. And that was the defining moment of okay, guess this is something special that I have that I had no idea that I had, right? And for me, it wasn't really a big deal. I didn't really care. I think what got my attention was the fact that my classmates were hyped about it, especially the young ladies. They was looking at me if I was the coolest dude in the world, and I was just like, you saw what I did, girl. So I think that inspired me to keep going. Yeah. And then later, at a later point, maybe about a year or two after, I really truly fell in love with the instrument. Went to church, heard the musicians play at church, joined the church, became one of the musicians at church, and that's kind of where I really developed and grew as a musician and was nurtured as a musician. So that's kind of how it all came into play. Growing up, I always loved hip hop. I listened to it. I had to sneak to do it because my parents forbid it. but I had a Walkman. This is before y'all time.
Yeah.
I had a Walkman that I would sneak under my pillow, and every time it was time for me to go to bed, I would pull that Walkman out and listen to, you know, whatever cassette tapes or whatever music that I would have, and I would always get caught, you know, by my dad, but I would never get in trouble. Like, you know, I wouldn't get a beating or I wouldn't get scolded. He would just kind of look at me and be like, because he felt it and he knew that. You know, obviously I loved it and it was something that I loved, and you know, it wasn't causing me any harm. So it's like, I get it. Just don't let your mother see you, but I know, one more hour. You know what I mean? So he kind of let me rock out. You know what I mean? So that was how it all came together.
So you mentioned a Walkman. My kids wouldn't have a clue in the world what a Walkman is. So, or a cassette tape. I had to show them what a cassette tape was, right?
Right.
Anyway, but what touched me about your story just then is that I'm a believer in God. So I don't, you know, push that out on anyone, but I do believe that our lives are planned for us. And what I just heard is that music wasn't on your mind. You wasn't going to do this, but for some reason you missed school that day. Things are purposeful. Things are purposeful. And missed what you wanted to do and stepped into what God wanted you to do. And that's just my take on it. That's just what because look where you are today.
Listen, you know, as much as I wanted to learn the saxophone and the trumpet, and I love the instrument, I know saxophonists, I know trumpet players who have went on, you know, to do amazing things in music and in performance, right? Whether they're touring with different artists or in Broadway or, you know, whomever, whatever, right? But like you said, I agree with you 100%. I feel like this is what God had for me. This is the calling that he had for me. The fact that I was able to sit down at an instrument, right? Never touching an instrument before, but sound as if I've been playing this instrument for years to come. Like you said, by ear, you know, by just picking it up and just going, it was just like, wow, this is crazy. And
gift.
It you know, just when you think about drums, like it's the heartbeat. You know what I mean? It's the heartbeat of the band. It's like without the beat, like how does the band function? How does the song develop? How does it keep going? You know what I mean? Like you need the rhythm, you need the rhythm, you need the heartbeat in order to keep living, to keep surviving. So I love my instrument, and it's opened up so many doors from the production sense in regards to me even being a producer. So I think if I would have chosen another instrument, I don't think I would be where I'm at today. I'm not saying I wouldn't be successful or rocking out in music, but I think me being a drummer really was what pushed me to produce, because drums has everything to do with production. Like, you know, without the beats, what do you have? You know, so, and you know, I'm grateful.
I believe it. I just feel like, just from hearing it, that's what you were destined to do. And then it just became so great. Let's turn the tables a little bit and talk about the behind the scenes in the music business. I've talked to and interviewed several people that's really seasoned in the business and, you know, still going in the business, and then I'm in clubhouse rooms where they talk about music and how, you know, it's show business, but it's more business. And if you don't have your stuff together on the business side, it could very well cause you to kind of fail in the business. Let's talk about the behind the scenes in the business part of the music, because I want to talk about what your take is on the griminess of the business and how it can suck you up. What is your take on that?
I mean, yeah, I think, you know, like for instance, me coming into the business the way I did, not really knowing the business side of things. You know, I'll give you a little quick story, like with the Foxy Brown situation. So she has another brother by the name of Gavin.
Yes.
Gavin Marchand is more of her side-by-side, ride or die in the studio all the time, helping writing songs and guiding from a creative standpoint, right? And, you know, I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was the position he played. I didn't know how important his position was. You know, I understand now because I understand how the creative process is, but as a youngin', you don't know.
Right.
But I kind of dealt with a situation where when it was time to get paid, I realized that he went and got paid half of the producer fee. You know what I mean? So he kind of told Def Jam, like, yeah, me and Amadeus produced it, you know, and I don't know anybody from Def Jam. She signed to Def Jam, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So of course the relationship is with them. So if he tells them that, then they're going to go with what he said.
Right.
So I kind of like finagle my way and found that out. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I produced it by myself. But that point was like null and void because he had already got the check, you know? So at that point, it was just about collecting the other half of it, at least getting the other half of the check, you know? So yeah, so that happened. If you check the credits on the album, on the actual album, the CD booklet, like it says produced by Amadeus and Gap, you know what I'm saying? Which wasn't the case. So that just goes to show you like, yeah, the business can be a little bit crazy, you know, and grimy. And it's funny because when it happened, you know, I was very disappointed. It was new. It was it was my first moment. So it's like, you're ruining my first moment, my first placement. Like it's not right. I didn't get paid half the money. You know, your name is on the joint too. Like that's not, you know, because we could have easily discussed that. Listen, I'm in the studio with her. I helped her build the song, help her put it together. Cool. I wasn't there at the studio, so I don't know. Right. But it could have easily been a conversation like, hey, man, I'm going to put you on this album. You know, I worked on this record with her. We'll produce it together. You know, we'll split the money. I'm not saying I was going to be okay with it, but I think, you know, discussing it would have been a better thing versus just moving with it. So the business is very important. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because after that happened, I really made it my business to focus on the business and focus on understanding it and learning it, right? And I went and got this book, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business, right? And everybody pretty much, not everybody, but a lot of people know about it, know what it is, have read it. It's on its 10th edition now. I think they updated it last year. So when I meet with artists and producers and creators, and I always tell them, yo, go get this book. This taught me everything I know, literally. And I've managed myself for 10 years and above based off of the knowledge that I've learned from this book. So the business is very important. If you don't know, and people can get a sense if you don't know and if you're new, and they'll definitely take full advantage of you and rob you if they can, and steal from you if they can. And that's a part of the business. So I'm, you know, I don't have any regrets. You know, I have forgiven, you know, Gavin, like we're cool. Of course, me and Fox is cool. And it's a part of the game. It's a part of the business, you know, and it's about, you know, if you got once, you know, it's just about making sure that you educate yourself and you do what you need to do for yourself so that it doesn't happen again. Or if someone tries to do it, you can see it coming, you know what I mean? And be able to block it and be able to prevent it. So yeah, I'm so glad you so make sure you learn the business now. It ain't just about the glitz and the glamour, being in the studio all day and shooting videos and the visuals and social media. Like, make sure that the business is right. You release an album, you want to make sure it's registered with ASCAP, BMI, whoever you with. I'm with ASCAP, shout out to ASCAP. You know, you want to make sure that your songs are registered. You're getting your publishing, you're getting your royalties, you understand it. You're understanding how streaming works and how you're paid off for streaming from Tidal and Apple Music and Spotify. And all of that's very important. It ain't just about looking good and looking like an artist, but it's about making sure you know what you're doing and understanding the business. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's very important to all of the creators out there.
Yeah, I love that, because that's just confirmation of what everybody else has said. I mean, you said it. And when I look at these young cats trying to get in the game, like, as I told you, my son is trying to get in. It's about shooting a video. Mom, I got to shoot a video. I made a song. I did this. But like, I'm here now trying to get the business me so I can make sure that he's okay, you know. And that he learns. So that's why I have these conversations, not just for my son, but for anybody that's listening. And if you follow me out there, then you guys know that Amadeus just confirmed what everybody else behind him has said. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what it is in a day in the life of Amadeus when you're out touring. Let's talk about a tour. Let's talk about, you wake up, what happens?
You wake up, you're probably trying to figure out what city you in now. And obviously on tour, you wake up at different places. So you can wake up and be on a tour bus. You can wake up and be in a hotel, you know, so it just kind of depends on where you are in the world and what you're doing and what type of tour it is. You know, so yeah, that's what it can be. And you can wake up and still be on a tour bus driving to that next city, depending on where it is and how far it is. But it's a good time. It's a good time. It's just different. You know, obviously they, you know, with technology and the way they've built tour buses today, it's pretty extravagant and pretty fancy. But think about it. Think about like as if, you know, you're in a car and you laid your seat all the way back and you just, you know, sleeping in for like an hour or two on the road. It's not the same sleep as it is if you're in the actual hotel room or in a hotel bed where it's not moving and moving around and bouncing and shaking and hitting potholes and hearing, your band members screaming to the top of their lungs because they're looking at TV out in the living room in the bus. Like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So for everybody that's listening out there, all of the fans that, when you go see your favorite artist perform and you go see these shows, man, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put out there in regards to giving you guys the best show. We can sometimes be working on 4 hours of sleep, sometimes working on none. You can have those moments where you finish a show and you're so hyped up and so, on a million that you can't fall asleep. You know what I mean? There's so many different vibes and energies, man, but you love it. You learn and love it. I think touring is one of the most amazing things you can possibly do. And regardless of how difficult it may be, how tiring it may be, how much it can weigh in on your body, it's epic. It's nothing like, when you're on stage and that curtain opens, and whatever venue you're in, whether it's 3,000 people, 80,000 people, and you just hear that roar and see that level of excitement of them wanting to see you perform, it's nothing like it. You know what I mean? I could have just awakened. I could have just been jet lagged, but when them lights hit,
it's on,
and the music starts, and you hear that roar, it's just it's like God comes down on you, man, and and you feel that feeling, and you just go, you just go. So I love it. So I think that's a great question. I love the fact that you've asked that question.
Yeah, you work with so many different artists, many different artists. Is it all about, and I'm asking these questions for education. So is it that, let's just put Foxy Brown out there. So Foxy Brown, and now Foxy Brown said, look, I work with Amadeus. This is what he got going on. You got to connect. Your people connect with his people. And then now you got this person, you got this next celebrity. Then you got this next artist. How does that work? And how does the business side of that work?
Honestly, it's more about your hustle. I wish it worked like that. But it definitely doesn't, at least from my experience. Most artists, and I'm saying this in the most positive way I can possibly say it, when you work with artists, 9 times out of 10 is about them, right? They're the center of attention, and again, this is not from a negative sense. This is just the reality of it. Like, you're coming in to work with me, you're coming to work on my album, my project. It's all about me. So I think the last thing an artist would do is get that sauce that you give them and be like, all right, so now go get what you gave me to so-and-so or so-and-so. So for you to connect with other artists or producers, you kind of do that on your own. You know what I mean? So me connecting with like Little Mo and Mike Jones, and that's me reaching out to A&Rs and managers and kind of networking and getting out there and going to networking events and being in clubs and being in parties and navigating my way through. It was never like this is Amadeus, you should work with him. It was like, nah, but it was always built from my hustle, built off of the relationships that I've created or built on my own, with just making sure that I was in the right place at the right time to meet those people, introduce myself in hopes of a song coming out of it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it came together for me. Like, even like touring, you tour with different artists. Like, Trey, I think it was us, Trey and Big Sean. Like we took Big Sean on his first tour, on an anticipation tour. So it's like up to me to introduce myself to Sean and develop, as we're on the road for a month and a half, develop a relationship with him. Like, you see me playing drums, you see me music director for Trey and all of that, but I'm a producer as well. So I had to do that. Like, I had to introduce myself to Sean and introduce that side of Amadeus to them, because people are only seeing what they're seeing from what they see. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. So you might think, Amadeus is a drummer. Amadeus is a music director. That's it. It's like, nah, Amadeus wears many hats, and let me introduce you to Amadeus and all of those other hats that I wear, so it could possibly turn into, a hit record for us. So, and that's just for everybody that's tuned in. It's all about your hustle. It'd be great if people connected the dots like that for me and introduce me to people. It's my boy. He got heat. You should work with him. But 9 times, if there's people out there like that, it's really rare. You know what I mean? And off the top of my head, I can't really say that any artists put me in a position to rock and be great with someone else. You know what I'm saying? It's more so about them. You know what I mean?
That's where I had it mixed up. So I'm glad we are talking about it, because I'm not probably the only one, because I would think it's just like in the corporate world, though, your career is your responsibility.
Yeah.
People have the ability to help you if they want to, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for your career.
Right.
I'm thinking, because Amadeus is so hot and what he got is fire, then I'm going to be willing to say, look, I worked with him. This is what he did for me. Hook up with him. Like, that's what I would think. I guess that's who I am. I can people to be who I am, right? And
I can relate. I'm the same way, which is why, I help people and I do the sit down and give people the information and the knowledge they need to push forward, because with doing that doesn't take away from my gift. It doesn't take away my blessings. Like, whatever God has for me is for me. Whatever he has for you is for you. Right. So I can help you. You know what I mean? And I can push you forward, and that doesn't take away from my gift and where I'm supposed to be in my destiny. And a lot of people, are intimidated by that. Like, nah, I'm not going to go help him or her because I don't want them to get further than me. I don't want them to become, what if I connect with Amadeus and they have a bigger song than me? This is how, people think. And it's unfortunate. And 9 times out of 10, it's really us and our people, if you know what I mean, because a lot of the other ethnicities and other cultures don't work like that. You see them work together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see large communities of them supporting one another, to the point where I've seen communities of people that only support their community. You know what I mean? Only purchase from their community. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think that's how they survive. They work together, they come up together, they build together, they make money together, they get the bag together. You know what I'm saying? And we, for some reason, got this competition thing that's going on. And I always say, it's not a competition for me, because what you said, what's for me is going to happen for me. What's for you is for you. But if I got some gems to drop to help you, I want to help you. And everybody's just not like me. And that's another thing about the business. I might be too nice for the business. I might be just too nice. And I have to, that's why I want to keep having these conversations. I want to keep talking to people like you. And I want to help the people that are coming up. You don't have to be mean and just ugly, but you better stand your ground, because it'll keep you alive.
Absolutely. And stay nice. Don't allow people and how they carry themselves to cause you to feel like you need to be something or someone else. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's a time and a place for everything. Sometimes it calls for you to just be you and be cool and laid back and loving. And then sometimes you just have to hit that switch of, like, nah, just because I'm humble, just because I'm cool, just because I'm a God-fearing man or woman, don't think that, you can overstep the boundaries, and don't think you can test me, because then you might end up somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So
that's right. Now don't play. That's right. So true. And you have to be able to identify that, right? Because I feel like, I have to be who I am. I can't change for that. I'm who God created me to be, but don't cross lines. Don't cross lines, because I don't cross lines. So anyway, that's that. But what I wanted to tell you is that Shartown Entertainment, I interviewed her as well. She's so sweet, but she says, I really want to talk to Amadeus, because he was so humble and he was so sweet whenever we conversated. And that meant a lot, because of your status in the industry. You hear stories of people of your status or higher, whatever, artists, whatever, that just kind of have this, it's all, like you said, it's all about me, and really show that, and really don't deal with you in that way. They kind of cut you short. But she has something so different to say about you, and she's just now getting to know you through trying to connect with you. So I think that says a lot for your success, right? Your humbleness will carry you, even though you don't have to take crap off of people. Being humble and being true to who you are.
I feel like I know what it took for me to get here, right? Just to be clear, there's so much more in me. There's so much more I want to accomplish, and so much more that I haven't done that's still on the bucket list, right? So I still have a lot of work to do, right? But I do always reminisce of what it was when I first started, and how hard it was for me to get to where I'm at today. And with that being said, it's like, just as God has blessed me with it, and blessed me with opportunities, and blessed me to be able to walk through those open doors, he can remove it. He can take it all away from me. All the way from me. He can not allow me to be as good anymore on drums, or my beats can, you know, start being whack and people not like it. And you know, he could turn a page, man, and it could just kind of shake my entire world.
Yeah.
So that's why I will always be this way, you know, and then this is based off of how I've always been taught by my parents, me growing up in a church by my pastor, you know, like this is, no matter how much success, no matter who you meet, who you're around, what you experience, it's like, remember, bro, you was that little kid from the Bronx that was just trying to figure it out, you know, and God bless you. You know what I mean? So don't get crazy. Like don't start feeling like it's you and you know what I mean? And you did it. Yeah, you worked and you hustled, but without God, none of these things would be possible. So that's why I'll always be, you know, who I am. And it's funny because, and I don't get to talk about this a lot, but you've made it safe for me to feel comfortable too, where sometimes you see out there in the music and you see people's success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it's mind boggling because some of them aren't humble. You know, some of them are a-holes, some of them are mean, some of them don't treat people right? And you see, you know, sometimes their level of success and not that you should ever compare yourself to anybody, but you look at that and you're like, man, they might be doing better than me. I don't have that crib over there on the hill. I don't, you know, I don't have them. I don't own all of those properties, or, you know,
yeah,
I don't have wads of money falling out of my pocket, you know, and I'm this God-fearing, humble, nice guy. And I'm in the presence of that person. And it's like, I would never want to be in their presence because there's just real a-holes and, you know, they live in the best life ever. And I'm over here trying to figure out life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you, it becomes an uncomfortable thought sometimes where it's like, well, do I need to be that? Do I need to be an a-hole? Do I need to be on drugs? Because I never tried a drug a day in my life, but he can't even stand up, but he's getting paid, you know, I don't know, $100,000 a night for his show. If he can't even stand up and remember his lyric, but he's going to get $100,000 tonight as he's popping those pills over here. Me, I never popped a pill in my life. I'm saying, hey, everybody, and being a blessing. He's going home to his mansion and I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. But you know what?
You know what I mean?
You know what, Amadeus? I'd rather be trying to figure it out than being that kind of person to people. I'll take it over anything because you know what? God provides every time. He makes a way every time. So
no, you know what? That's so true. No, you're right. You're right. And you'd be surprised if, like, sometimes, you know, you never know what people are going through and you never know what people need to hear.
Right.
And, you know, one thing about me, I'm always going to be honest and transparent, right? Because I feel it's that'll allow people to be blessed. You know what I mean? And, you know, yesterday was a very difficult day for me mentally. I just was just a wreck mentally, just second guessing myself, questioning, you know, who I was as a musician, as a person. Do I still got it? You know what I mean? You sometimes you get caught up in those moments. And, you know, so as God speaks through you, you know, nah, go ahead, man. Because you just never know who would need to hear something, regardless of who they are, regardless of their name, the level of success, because all this is cool. But, you know, this pandemic really did a lot on us. You know what I mean? And I've never, and it's a blessing to be able to say so. I've never suffered mentally my entire life until this pandemic hit. Wow. And I've seen others suffer. I've been a part of, you know, family members and significant others suffer, you know, but it's a different thing when it's you. You know what I mean? And it's been an ongoing battle, which is why I talk about it, because you just never know who's going through what. And people look at people, successful people, and people on social media, and people on social media only show you the good stuff. They show you the accomplishments. They show you the accolades. They show you the deals. They show you well, what about the deals that fall through? What about, you know, when that record tanks, when it's not successful, or, you know, you didn't sign that deal, or your shows are canceled, or, you know what I mean? Nah, let's talk about that. You know what I mean? And how you survive that. You survive when your phone ain't ringing off the hook anymore, or, you know, people aren't responding to your texts and your email messages, you know, trying to send your music out to those projects being worked on. Like, it's just real life things that you deal with. And in those moments, you're like, bruh, am I still me? You know what I mean? Do I still have it? You know, and of course, that's the enemy. that comes to distract you, that comes to try to knock you off course. Yeah. But then sometimes it takes people like yourself, you know, and family, and sometimes a stranger or someone that you've just met can be a huge blessing to you. You know what I mean? Versus a family member or someone you've known your entire life. Always be obedient, man, to what God is telling you to do. You know what I mean? Because you just never know. You could be saving someone's life. It could be a thought in the back of their mind of them doing harm to themselves. And thank God it's not me. I'm not, let's be clear.
Right.
You know, I've never, ever have had a suicidal thought. Thank God. I've never had a thought of harming oneself. Thank God. You know what I mean? Yes. But you just never know of what people are going through and how you making a statement or saying something can really be a true blessing and a life-turning, you know, moment for that person. You know what I mean?
That's right. And that's why I try to treat everybody kind, no matter what, because you don't know what they're going through. And if I just smile, give them a smile, maybe that'll help. But what I also like about it is that you are a man and you're talking about it, right? I had a rough day yesterday.
Yeah.
Men don't like to talk about that. Men are providers, they're the caretakers. They are not supposed to be talking about that. But if you don't talk about it, it gets worse, right?
Yeah.
You can't admit I had a messed up day yesterday. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. I was second guessing myself, but guess what? Today I'm better. You know? Yeah.
You know, absolutely. Yeah.
I wish I had more time with you, but you know, I know.
Listen, if we got to do a part 2, we'll do a part 2.
Maybe we have nothing wrong with that. Because I love the conversation. There's so much more that I wanted to get out. So let's do a part 2. Let's do a part 2. And so for now, before we get out of here, just what would you leave with somebody that's still like in a position where they're just normal person in, like, I'm going to use my son, for example, in his closet making music. What would you leave with somebody like that that's, you know, in the closet making music, like have these big dreams? What are you telling them out the gate? Honestly, what are you giving them honest?
I think I think what's most important is understanding who they are, right? Who they are and what they want to share with the world, whether it's artistry, whether it's an artist, a painter, whether it's them being a lawyer, whether it's being a doctor. If it's something that they're most passionate about, you know, that's the thing they're supposed to be doing in life, right? Where every night you have a dream of this thing, whether it's y'all want to be a producer, y'all want to be a doctor, y'all want to be a NASCAR driver, I want to be in the NFL. That's what you're supposed to be doing. There's a reason why you're having those dreams, because those are God giving you the vision of what your life can be and the life that you can live if you apply yourself and you hustle and you work hard. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So those dreams are not meant just to be, you know, things that just help you get through the night. You know what I mean? To the next day. Like, nah, those are your visions for your life. Now get to it. Get up, get to work, believe in yourself and put the work in. You know what I mean? And it sounds so cliche, but it's the truth. It's what I've done. It's what I've done my entire life. It's what I've done my entire career. You know, you gotta block out the noise. You gotta block out the negativity. You gotta not, you know, ignore the doubt, ignore the fear, and get to it. You know, you get one life, man. You get one life, and with you getting that one life, you know, you should live your life to the fullest. And like I said, and that should be with you doing what you love to do. You know, you would hate to wake up every day to go do something you hate to do.
That's right.
Like that's a horrible life to live. You know what I mean? So that's why it's meant for you to do what you love, so that when you wake up, you're excited about what you do today. You're excited about what's on the way. You're excited about what you can accomplish, what you can, you know, achieve. Like, who do I bless today? What record can I make today that can be that can uplift someone somewhere around the world? What interview can I do today that can encourage or motivate and inspire someone to go after their dreams? You know what I mean? What conversation? What, you know what I mean? What show can I play that someone can come see that can just remove them from life, that can be weighing down on them? But in this hour of you seeing me perform on stage, you're in heaven. You're living the best life ever for that 1 hour. Because when you go back home, you might be going back to hell. You might be going back to abuse. You might be going back to those kids that don't listen. But for that 1 hour, you're living your best life. So I never take for granted those moments. I never take for granted for where I am today. And just be, man, be free and tap into what God has blessed you with. We all have gifts and talents. you know, what you're capable of doing, I'm not capable of doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it should be. We all can't do the same things. If we all did the same things, you can't be special. So we're all unique in our own way. And I'll leave you with this. We're all superheroes. You say, how? Like, why? What's my special power? Your special power is that when you look at your hands and you see these lines and you see these prints, no one in the world has your print. Someone can look like you. Y'all can be twins. Y'all can have the same name, the same last name, be from the same hood, be cousins. I don't care. All that's cool. But no one on earth is you. No one on earth has the same fingerprints as you. And that is your superpower. You know what I mean? Like, you're your own individual. You're your own person. So when you tap into that, when you love on who you are, when you love on that person that you are, and how amazing God made you, that's when you tap into those gifts. That's when the success comes. That's when the networking happens. That's when the open doors come. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'll leave you with that.
That's so awesome. Amadeus, thank you so very much. I'm truly humbled by your presence, and
thank you.
With Black Link Magazine. I can't wait to showcase you in the magazine.
I can't wait to.
We'll come back for a part.
Let's do a part two, baby. Let's do a part two. Let's give the people what they want.
Yeah, let's give them what they want. All right, I love it. You guys, listen to the interview all the way through. It's important. But we're going to get out of here for now. In the meantime, respect yourself and respect others. God bless.
Blessings, everybody.